Hello, everyone. Today we're starting Chapter 7, Social Media, and this is going to be a multi-part lecture. So we'll go through a few different items related to social media that you might use, whether you're a journalist or someone who's working for a company or starting your own business online. So first of all, we want to ask, why use social media? Well, when we use social media, we're actually using what's called a many to many model. And what that means is not only are you able to send information to your audience like you would with a one to many model, which you see right here with this little guy. So, this is our traditional news, traditional way of spreading information where it's only going one way and it's from the person who is sending the message out to their audience. In the many to many model, which you see here with this fun little diagram, you're actually collecting and distributing information. So you're able to get more feedback from your audience. You're able to have more micro targeted ads, micro targeting with your products, and have that direct audience engagement. You're able to figure out exactly who would use your particular product or service. And you're also able to use that online word of mouth through audiences sharing information and through recommended groups in different social media algorithms. Now, there are a lot of different types of social media. These are a few examples. They are not even close to all of the different groups that have existed or possibly will exist. Now, if you're looking to spread more text or link based information, then you might want to stick to Twitter, Facebook. Reddit is another good one, although they do also provide a way to spread pictures and video. Weibo is another one. And also, if you want to maybe focus a little more on images or video, go to Instagram, Snapchat, videos, especially live streaming. You can do that with Twitch. YouTube and TikTok also have those abilities. And of course, messaging. There are just a plethora of messaging apps. You can use traditional email or even SMS, where you're sending a message out using a traditional messaging system, that default thing that most of you probably don't use that's on your phone. You can use that. You can use Signal, WhatsApp, WeChat, Line, iMessage. The choices are endless. You also have professional social media like LinkedIn, or Slack is often used with professional groups. There's also Microsoft Teams. If you want to create blogs and share blog posts, you could use Blogger or WordPress or Medium even. And again, of course, I always recommend having your own site if you want to go into one of these longer forms of like blogs or online content. Now, when you're looking to build your audience, you want to choose a platform that works for your target group. And whenever you're deciding whether or not to use social media, think about what it'll add to your company. Is it something that will help you humanize your brand or your business, or maybe help you connect with your target audience and share important information with them, like when you have updates about a new program or something else that's coming out? And whatever you use, remember, consistency is key. You do want to have timely and engaging posts, just like you would with a blog or website. Now let's take a look at social media and journalism. So here are two links to a Facebook page and a website for a particular local news group, KATC. Let's see how their home pages and content you see right away are a little different or maybe the same. Okay, so first let's look at their website. Now you can see they have their most recent and top news stories, as well as their kind of around Acadiana series. And let me go ahead and turn off my ad blocker. Okay, so we should be able to see any ads or other things they have on here. And we can see they do have a little banner ad here, some station promotion stuff. They have some of their recurring series like Cool Schools, as well as news related to the weather, which, as we all know, is most people's favorite part about news. They want to know what the weather's doing. And their Friday night football, since it's Friday, and a few other stories they have going on this afternoon. All right, now let's take a look at their Facebook page. Well, first of all, we do see that it is a Facebook page. It isn't a self-contained site like the other one. And of course, it does open to their main page, and they have their little group shot here. And we can see some of their current posts. So this post was from 4 hours ago. And it's a little jarring, post wise, going from here, from the current story to what they had posted on here before. But in general, it looks like other than kind of emergency posts, they have stuff that would be considered kind of like mid-block news on here. So not an emergency, but worth mentioning. And of course, they do provide their news tip information on here, and times when they were mentioning KTC, which of course the anchors and reporters and everyone are supposed to mention them on their social media pages. And you can see who's following them, some of their photos, videos. So slightly different content than what you might see with a traditional news site, but in general, kind of along the same lines. And of course, we do still have that link to their original website. Okay, so why do news groups use social media? Most of the time, they pay for a website they are hosting. So why would they bother with social media? Well, information collection. It's easier to work in that many to many model where they're able to interact with their audience to gather information and provide information to their audience members whenever they're able in a more direct way versus their traditional broadcast or newspaper format. And they're also able to provide breaking news and update people whenever necessary. And again, it provides a personal connection between not just the kind of general station or news desk, but also with the reporters, where they're able to interact with audience members. And it brings the audience even closer to the people they're seeing on the screen. And another thing, it also is a way to drive traffic to your website. So you're able to connect your traditional website to social media. As we saw on the homepage, they even had their phone number listed, and they're also able to provide video and story links whenever there's something you want people to view in a longer form on your website. And of course, you're going to hopefully get them there using your headlines and your links. And of course, you can, it is a great way to connect with the audience, but there are some drawbacks for the audience as well, because whenever you see something posted on social media, more and more people are becoming skeptical whenever they see something posted online. And even if it looks like it's coming from a trusted source, it's often a good idea to go to that source, make sure that the information does match what you see on their website before you share it. And that is, of course, a big problem still faced by a lot of social media groups, as well as people who use social media, where you have that impulse to share something before reading it. For a little while, Twitter tried to decrease it by having a prompt say, "Hey, you only looked at the headline. Don't you want to read through the whole article before you share it?" I haven't seen that lately, but we'll see. Now, in a Pew Research Center study conducted and published in September of this year, they found that about 82% of American adults say they get their news from digital devices often or sometimes, and about 31% of people said they were getting their news from TV. So if we look at the graph here, you can see that those numbers are pretty high, especially compared to some of the like the radio and print numbers. Now, it is still relatively high if you look the um, at the numbers for print publications. Unfortunately, it looks like for 2022, we had about 33% of people saying they never use a print publication, but they are more likely to use it sometimes or often, little over 30% of the time. So still not the worst, but not the best for print news. Um, so by far, people are more likely to use their digital devices, use their TVs, and part of that probably is availability. When you're using social media platforms or often like digitally released podcasts, or if you're looking at broadcast TV, so the stuff that's coming in on an antenna or an antenna-like device, it's usually free. It's something that has a really low barrier for people, so they're more likely to go and look at it. That isn't something I saw in the study. That's more of a general observation I've had as someone who's dealt with different studies and publications and things. Um, but basically, they found that, you know, over 80% of people are sometimes or often using their digital devices to find news. And 53% of people said they preferred it. So it's something that's really easy to access. And same thing, TV, 33%, but you can see there's still a pretty big jump between those two numbers. And that's stayed about the same since 2020. So they're kind of within that margin, a few percentage points different. Now, about a quarter of Americans said they prefer news websites or apps when they're looking up their news. But in general, news websites, apps, and search engines were the preferred methods of finding news online. About 13% said they were using social media um, or search engines when they were looking up news stories. And about half of American adults sometimes or often get news from social media. So when we look at these numbers, and I know there's kind of a lot of graphs and everything happening right now, but you can see the impact that digital news and social media have on people's mindsets, on how they're accessing information, and that it's impacting a large group of people. So here's a nice demographic graph explaining like different information about people who are considered regular social media news consumers. And you can see most of them are going to be adults under 30. Half or more of them are consuming news on Snapchat, TikTok, and Reddit. And also, if you want to look at a few other numbers, we can see that sites like Facebook and Instagram are more likely to have women using them, according to the study. And places like Reddit and Twitter are more likely to have men looking at the posts and things on there. Now, one interesting note is that all of the sites mentioned in this study had primarily had consumers who identified as democratic or leaning democratic, and none of them had a majority who considered themselves Republican or leaning Republican. So interesting information in here. I definitely recommend looking at the links at the end of this video if you are interested in that kind of information. Now, in a 2021 study by the NYU Stern Center, they found that social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube intensified political divides between people. And they made several recommendations within the study to modify or find a way to reduce this online political tension in social media settings. And one of them was to stop rewarding viral content, which they considered a type of political dosing. And it also developed this kind of echo chamber where people would, it was always, or almost always, I should say, information that would really trigger people. Something that makes you have that fight or flight response whenever you read it, or even when you see the headline. And often it would cause people to spiral and go down these rabbit holes of information where they just become so entrenched in whatever ideas are being repeated over and over again that it becomes almost a kind of brainwashing for people. And this isn't just with one political group. This is with like it's more about the way social media reinforces information that is liked or clicked or promoted in some way. So one of their recommendations was for the Federal Trade Commission to provide more oversight to develop some kind of regulation. If you want to continue reading, they do include more information in the study about their recommendations and how these things could be regulated by the Federal Trade Commission or by other groups. So this brings us to an interesting idea: who is to blame? So when we see people who, you know, become scared out of their minds by these types of spirals of information, who should be to blame? Well, one opinion article written by Pulitzer winning editor Howard Saltz identifies that people are the key component of social media. So in his opinion, the basically there's plenty of blame to go around, and that we've had tons of instances in the past throughout human history where people have spread lies and deceit, and that we basically need to, stop and, maybe take a step back and look at ourselves whenever we are considering, you know, who is spreading this information. Maybe, if we slow down and look at something before we repeat it, before we repost that video that looks so crazy, or that photo or that headline that we see that's, really clicking in our brain, maybe instead of doing it right away, actually taking a minute and reviewing the information and how these people gathered the information and whether or not it's really something we want to share with other people. Now, in his article, he talks about social media groups like Facebook being kind of like the new printing press. It's a new, faster way to spread information. However, he does concede that social media groups still need to hold themselves accountable, and we do need some additional regulation and other things to kind of keep them from spreading or from allowing misinformation to spread so easily, and maybe develop a better system, possibly something similar to what we have with the Federal Communications Commission. So that brings us to the question, what do you think? Do you think that all of the blame is on social media or traditional media? Do you think people need to stop for a second and consider the headline and the information source before they spread it to their friends and family? So kind of think about that, and consider how you might use social media the next time you're online. And here are some references. All right, I will see you guys in class. Bye.